Welcome to TheatreCast. You've reached episode number 80, being recorded November 8th, 2015. This is the show where theater teachers and professionals share their passions for theater trends, share practical advice and tips, and ask questions of some of theater's most innovative collaborators. I'm Nick Cusumano. I'm one of your co-hosts for TheatreCast, and then joining me as always is my partner in crime, Danielle Filas.
Hello from Ohio, everybody.
And then the rest of us are joining from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'll let Danielle finish the introduction.
Thank you, Nick. I'm super excited to welcome back to the show our good friend Matthew R. Kerns, who has been a busy fellow since the last time we talked to him. Matthew comes to us with all kinds of experience in theater and specifically in theater education. He and I met a long time ago, years ago, when we were both teaching at the Chicago Academy for the Arts in Chicago, Illinois, and since then he has taught at such places as Sonoma Academy, Loyola University in Chicago, and now has started his own theater school. It's been a long time coming, called the DramaClubStl, right there in St. Louis, and he and his lovely partner in crime, sitting right next to him, Megan, are both running a really exciting program there that they're going to talk to us about today. Matthew, would you mind introducing Megan to us, please?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me and us. Sure, I can introduce Megan. So Megan is a St. Louis native, and as such, we know each other from high school, like most people here do. And when I came back and I was talking with Megan about starting the drama club, she was like, hey, I want to be involved in that. She has a pretty extensive history in working with preschool kids and cares a lot about the arts and social work, so it just seemed to make a perfect marriage. And we sat down and we started making this magic thing that's now up and running, as I like to say. Hi, Megan.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit, you guys, maybe Matthew, you can start about your vision for the DramaClubStl. What brought you back to St. Louis to begin with, and what your vision is for the DramaClubStl in particular?
Sure. I had been traveling the country for a long time, teaching around here, there, and everywhere, and making work, and serving as different roles in different theater companies. And about a year ago, almost to today, unfortunately my dad had a pretty massive heart attack and died suddenly. And so something, I don't know what that's like for other people, but for me, it gave me some real pause and caused me to have some pretty deep introspection about where I wanted to be and what I really wanted to be doing. And so about 5.5 months after that event, I had really decided I was coming home to St. Louis permanently to be closer to my family and to join the art scene here, which I think is really exciting and dynamic right now. And I wanted to do a few things. So I have a performance company called the Salt House Collective where we make original work. And the other thing that I wanted to do was really start a supplemental educational school for the community. And I was trying to figure out a name, and the name that seemed to make the most sense to me was something that we've all been through called the Drama Club. And I added STL because I wanted people to know that it was happening right here in good old St. Louis. And so that's why I'm here. The philosophy behind it, and I think what makes it exciting and unique, is that we are trying to do things that other arts organizations here aren't doing. We're filling voids in ways that we're making it affordable, so it's incredibly inexpensive to have your kiddo enroll in a class. And the philosophy behind it is that we are an ensemble-based school. So really what that means is I believe that we are open enrollment. You can come in at any time that you want. And the philosophy of the ensemble believes that you, the person here on day one, who may have never been in art, interested in art, or touched art, but you've got this fire in your belly for something, have something deeply valuable to offer every other person in that room, whether they've had 2 months of training or 5 years of professional training. You can learn and inform from each other. And the Drama Club is expressly and deeply rooted in that philosophy of ensemble-based work.
Thank you. And I understand, Megan, specifically you are working with Matthew to create a really unique program there at the Drama Club that is specifically serving students who may be on the autism spectrum. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about what that's like?
Sure. Theater arts can be a really positive experience for kids with ASD disorders, autism spectrum disorders, because typically their problems lie in communicating and having appropriate social reactions. And a lot of our improv stuff really focuses on how to respond appropriately to another person when they're talking. You have to make eye contact. That's a big problem for a lot of kids with spectrum disorders. And they get to practice real life sort of situations in which they might encounter and be able to relate better to their peers. And so it can be a really positive experience. And it's better for kids who are verbal. Some kids have that, stumbling block. They're nonverbal, they're not expressive. And so it might not be perfect for them. But for lots of kids on the spectrum, it's a way to express themselves that they don't normally get in a typical classroom setting. So it's pretty exciting to do.
Totally. I mean, and just to add to that, the other thing that's happening in these classes are there's a flexibility of imagination that's happening. Somebody on the spectrum, a kiddo who has a spectrum personality, tends to have a very rigid idea of what is going to be, and this is how it's going to be. So we, just like in training in theater school, we're constantly pushing our imagination to the extremes and then through the boundaries. So these classes are doing the same thing in that we're giving, but we're also expanding at the same time in very small incremental steps.
Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
It was me, actually. I was going to say that what I really like about working with the autism spectrum kids is that we play to their strengths. It's what they're already good at, and they often just need that extra, just extra mentorship or just some creative way to help reach them and help them express what they're thinking and feeling. So,
and I imagine establishing a safe environment is really important, a really important aspect of that for them.
Yeah, creating a comfort level.
Safe.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Because schedules and routines are so important. You need to focus on the things that each particular student finds comforting, and you need to also consider the fact that if they are having trouble coping with any given situation, we need to have a space for them to sort of go and cool down or collect themselves. And so, safety is important in that they have to feel comfortable. Sorry, the dog's crazy. They have to feel comfortable enough to begin with in order to start the whole process of self-expression.
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of students over the years in shows at my school, and I think the rehearsal process helped lend some comfort to students because you have that repeatable situation, which gives them some comfort because you know where the path lies, and I think that provides some comfort through that process. I think also with improv, it gives those times a safe place to work through those social situations where you're able to work and help them discover that. I was just talking with the other teacher I teach with. He works at the University of Missouri St. Louis as a stage supervisor every now and then, and he worked Temple Grayden event, which was really kind of exciting, and I think she's a great example of someone who's on the autism spectrum disorder, um, but has able to really use her knowledge and her platform to speak and make people aware um, and connect and share and all those great things to help educate the public about it.
I love her especially because she does everything you said, but has also maintained her unique personality and not just sort of changed to be more socially acceptable, if that makes sense. She still maintained kind of her quirks and her eccentricities and uses them in a way that's positive and showcases them rather than just trying to pretend to be like everyone else. And I would think improv kind of would feed that mentality too, that there's not a shame at being different. Very often in improv, the mistakes in a scene are what make the scene great.
Totally. The other thing that's interesting too is we're trying to join the community of the autism community and really start to change the message that away from the idea that this is an affliction and instead starting to understand that this is a personality type. And being a personality type, we want to help these guys, if we can, flourish their social skills and flourish their imaginations and just start to understand that we are, it's just a human personality that's emerged versus like an affliction or something of that nature.
So if there are people listening, I'm like Nick said, he's had some students who are on the spectrum. I know the art school that we taught at, there were lots of teachers as well as students who are likely on the spectrum, diagnosed or not diagnosed, and for whom this philosophy and these exercises could be useful, but perhaps they're not in St. Louis. So if we have teachers listening who might be interested in utilizing some of the tools that you guys use in their classes, what are some exercises or simple ideas that you might be able to share that they could incorporate into their own instruction?
I think that this is a good moment, Megan, for you to talk about Luca and to talk about the shapes that you play with Luca all the time.
Okay. He's a little guy, he's under 3, and right now is very, very into tactile wooden shapes, and he likes to sort them, he likes to line them up. So we're just trying to change it up a little bit because his comfort level, what he likes to do is just make a nice long line of shapes on the ground, and so I started interrupting him, and I would just pick one up and put it on top and then ask him to stack one. And after 2 play sessions, he was altering his pattern of play to include me, and it was really a nice moment with him because he was so focused on what he wanted to do the first day that we tried it, and then the next week he was totally willing to make some changes to his play scheme to include another person. And I thought that was a really good moment. His parents were pleased to see that he was making eye contact. He was sitting very close to me, which was something that he doesn't normally do. And he was answering questions when I asked him what color a block was, and he's not very verbally expressive. So we had some really good results just by sitting down on the floor with him and doing what he wanted to do rather than trying to force him into some sort of discrete trial situation. And I felt like it was a really successful class period with him.
And so
that's one of the major improv rules is yes and.
Right,
And
totally.
I love what you're saying, Megan, that it's not just getting the student to yes and yes and. I'm sure anybody who's listened to us has heard me expound on the power of yes and before, but it basically means accepting your scene partner where they are. That's the yes part of it, and the and is adding to it. And I love what you did, Megan, because you're not just asking your little young student to yes and you, but you found him where he was and said yes to the shapes that he was playing with and did that by building on that, and he did it right back to you. That's a really beautiful story.
We met yesterday again, and he indicated by his interest in what we were doing that he is ready to move on to a new activity. So it's a challenge for me as well, because I have to keep, revamping what we're doing in order to keep him interested and wanting to engage.
And the interesting thing about this is we'll get updates from Mom and Dad. And yesterday, one of the curious things about it is he apparently doesn't like to play with other kids a lot, but he was deeply interested in playing with the other kids that were there yesterday, and jumping into the kind of string that they had woven all over the room and playing inside of that string and figuring it out. And there was an earlier update. Initially, Mother had said that he was not into things like sand, torturous for him. Well, he spent a few sessions and he was playing and getting to know things, and then Mom 2 weeks ago said he was at the playground, I turned around, he was in the sandbox. Right. So I mean, it's a huge trust step that he's having and going, I'm starting to understand I can explore something. It just takes him a while to accept it, and once he's accepted it, he seems to be going for it now. Sort of like yes and. Yes and. I will.
Yeah, heighten and explore, heighten and explore.
Totally. Yeah.
I wonder, you talked about something, I think it was you, Megan, or maybe it was you, Matthew, who you guys were talking about the sort of desire for structure and process and ritual in a way. And I wonder if, because we usually look at play as sort of this creative free-for-all and whatever you want to do, I wonder if that at times may be too overwhelming for someone whose personality is on the spectrum, and that maybe the rules of improv provide just enough structure to feel safe and secure in order to explore and know that you're not doing it wrong. I know a lot of my students who display sort of spectrum personalities, they are often just very worried about doing it wrong, and that's why they're so interested in the rule. It almost sounds defiant if you don't understand where they're coming from, but it's not defiant. They're just very concerned with doing it right. And so it just feels like play is, to us, to someone who's maybe not on the spectrum in that way, it's a fun thing to have no rules, but maybe for someone else it's a terrifying thing. So those little rules give just enough structure in improv to make it feel safe, maybe?
That's the interesting thing. So one of the kids that's on the spectrum that's in my teen improv class, they are very specific in the play that they're doing. However, when it pushes the boundary and that story that they've constructed starts to change, they are deeply, deeply wrestling with that change, but accepting it because we know the rules and we keep going back to the rules. And at the same time, really, it was just funny. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, a story got changed. We were talking, Bear Grylls came into the mix, and I don't know if you know who that is, but it was really funny.
I do.
Crazy adventure. Yeah, right. I didn't know who he was, and then I did.
Yeah.
I only know because he went somewhere shirtless with Zac Efron recently.
I'm sure he's thrilled that that's how he's known.
Right, I'm sure.
That's what his lower third would say. I'm sure it was Zac Efron one time. Yeah.
So he comes up and we start talking about, as we're learning long form, we're just starting to learn long form, and we start discussing how this can change. And it starts changing, and he starts morphing away from just being Bear Grylls into being Bear Grylls smashed together with a Smurf. And that was a very hard concept. And it was accepted, but then at the end of class, the student stopped me and said, hey, so when we go back to that story, if we go back next week, Bear Grylls is not going to be a Smurf, right? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. We should think about that but he could be a Smurf again. But it was interesting to see that that internal wrestle and that having to let go of an idea that had been so specifically made in the student's mind to give way for the greater good and success because they were able to do it.
Mm. It just shows, that's what I love about theater, is that it helps pull people in so many different directions they didn't imagine they could go. I was a shy kid many moons ago, and at this point, every now and then I still get shy, but if I have something to do or a person to connect with, then I'm just out there, and that's what I need to do, and I think that's what I love about theater. I think it's really exciting, the work you both are doing with your students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you talked about the rules, Matthew. What are the rules that you sort of initiate interaction with your students? What do you try to? Because I know different schools of improv give sort of different structures. What do you guys?
My rules of improv, so in the improv class, or if we're playing an improv game, my rules of improv always tend to lean toward Second City rules, which I think are pretty unanimous. But it's always yes and is first. Secondly, it's make statements, don't ask questions. And third,
Can you talk about why that's important?
I can. It's important because if I say to you, if we're in a scene together and I say, look at, like, whoa, now I can't think of a question, right? So, what are you doing?
Where are we going? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Where are you going? Where are we going? What are we doing? That's putting all the onus on my scene partner to to push the scene forward, versus me saying, hey, Danielle, it's really great here in this rocket ship. I'm really glad you brought me along because I've never been to Mars and I thought it was about high time I go.
And the important thing is that it doesn't even matter if it's a great initiation or not. Any initiation is good.
That's right.
Which goes back to that fear thing, right? Just any statement will do, because now we're off to Mars.
Just like you said earlier, some of the best things that happen are the mistakes in improv. So if a question happens in there, it's fine. We work with it and we meld it, but we just remind ourselves that we try to make statements. And the purpose of the statement is because it supplies to the third rule, which is always move the scene forward. So we never try to kill anybody in improv because that can't really go anywhere. And we never say no because that doesn't go anywhere. But there can be disagreement and agreement. There can be agreement and disagreement. You just have to always be thinking about moving the scene forward and being honest with your emotions and being honorable to your scene partners.
And that doesn't translate to real life at all.
Not even a little bit.
There'd be no use for that.
None. None. And you know, the truth of the matter is the school starts at age 4 and goes all the way through age 18. So our hope is that you will stay through the school throughout your childhood and your formative teen years, or you can drop in wherever and drop out and come back. But the idea is that whenever we've put our hands on you and done some shaping of your artistic life, that you will forever be a lover of the arts. You will forever be a supporter of the arts. You may go on to a professional career like some of Danielle and I's students in the past, or you may come and decide you're going to be a botanist, and that's great too. But you're always going to go, no, the arts are important, and we're passing the lineage on to the next generation.
That's definitely true, and I think Nick too probably has students who've gone on to non-arts careers who still can look back and be grateful for the lessons learned through ensemble work and through the discipline of putting up a show. I'm struck by a lot of what you guys have talked about has been all process, and not really talking about the improv performances or the theater performances. I know you do some of those too, but it sounds like your real sort of focus is on the artist and the artist's process.
I think that's true. You know, I mean, we definitely are having some show moments because I think, and I've talked to Megan about this and with Megan about this, uh, that's a necessary entity. If I'm going to have you go through training and I'm going to have you go through any kind of rehearsal process, it's not finished unless there's some watcher there to come in and complete the process. The energy changes, the emotion changes, the entire physical being of the beast changes when there is an audience. And so that's a very integral part. However, saying that, I am very much interested in that not being the driving force. That the driving force is really creating and shaping and crafting a love of the arts and a passion for the arts inside of every kid that walks through our doors.
Thank you for that. Hear, hear. If only every program could think that way. And it does seem, though, as a side note, that if you take care of process and artist, the product kind of takes care of itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can feel when there's a committed group of students, no matter their level of talent or training, that it's a great show.
And we've got some cool stuff coming around the pike. That's what's cool. One of the things that we'll be adding as we continue to grow here in January is we're about to add a teen-devised ensemble. So I think this is the coolest thing in the world. We've got this really cool guy that's coming in to teach it who's done a lot of devised work, and he's going to spend 5 months with a group of teenagers, and they're going to create a piece from nothing, which is very much where my training went to, and what I'm deeply interested in as a professional artist is inventing work. And I think in this modern day, and Nick, maybe you can speak about this in your classroom, but I find that kids now are looking to invent work. They like scripted plays, that's cool, but they're also very deeply committed to saying, hey, I got this idea and I want to flourish it.
I think students, well, I think it goes along with, you know, the culture that they kind of see, but they also, the students do better when they know they have an audience. It ups their game. No matter, you know, audience of peers, audience of adults, audience of the internet, whatever it may be, it ups their game because they all of a sudden like, oh, someone's gonna watch this. Well, then I better do really well with this because I'm gonna be seen, and you know, so now that I have that onus on me, how can I make this better? And it improves the process, and it's something I'm always looking for when we get close to a show. The dress rehearsal and the difference when you put an audience in front of them, it's always that conundrum for me. I'm like, I want to see what you did for them earlier, please. This process.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always that student who didn't know their lines and couldn't project, and then they get in front of an audience and they're like, let me entertain you.
Yeah, right, out of nowhere. They're like, they got it. You're like, where's that been? Oh.
Yeah. What just happened?
Wherever you can find that, and I think as a theater educator and artist, you need that safe place to explore and rehearsal, but you also need that little bit of danger with an audience there.
Yeah.
Because it's live, and what are you gonna do?
And it's so funny because if we go all the way down to our little kid program, which we call Fly Specs, which is super cute. It's a synonym for munchkin. And so the Fly Specs, Megan can talk about what we do because she really is like taking charge and leading that program. But it's fun. There's a performance every day. Every single day we're in there, we perform. Hey, Megan, why don't you tell them about it?
Okay. Fly Specs usually is structured pretty simply. We always base it on a piece of literature, something that's engaging or rhythmic or just something that we know will spark something in the kids. And then we always try to pair it with some sort of visual art kind of project so that they have something concrete to take with them, because, you know, we're here for parents too, and parents like it when kids bring stuff home. But with every book that we've read so far, we've found the kids reacting in different ways. One little girl, for our Halloween story, it was the little old woman who wasn't afraid of anything, and not very scary, but she ended up in Matthew's lap, you know, and she was pretending while I was reading to be very, very frightened, and it was really fun to watch because she was reacting to the different pages as I turned them. So sometimes the performance is on that level, and then sometimes we go up on stage and they get to take whatever prop they've made from our piece of literature and they get to perform their own interpretation of the story, and they love that. One day we just had dog day, and on stage our performance consisted of all of our little guys pretending to be puppies, and they were doing tricks for us. They were rolling over and they were begging, and it was so fun. And the parents, they stay for the whole thing because the parents are having fun too. And that's kind of the point, is to hopefully that make people see that they can very, very simply take an activity with their child and turn it into this whole experience that they never imagined before, because you just have to sort of listen and respond to the child's interest in what you're doing. And it's hard for us as adults to do because we're so focused on, you know, I mean, paying our bills and going to work and all that stuff. But if you really just take time to sit down and let the child guide the play, you find that you get more of a connection with the kid and they get more out of it.
Yep. So
that's huge. I think that's huge. And Megan, you know, you're making me think. You're making me think. No, stop my brain. No, I'm remembering recently. Now it was a podcast, and I listened to them sort of incessantly in my car. So it may have actually happened a long time ago. Uh-huh. But it was some NPR show, I'm pretty sure. But it was a couple that was using improv in very much the same way to communicate with their mother, who was going through dementia. Mm-hmm. And so they were both improv artists, and instead of saying, "No, Mom, we already told you she doesn't live here anymore," they would just go with it and say, "Yes, and she's going to fly through the moon," and ended up just having improv scenes with their mom all the time. And it was sort of the same idea, to meet her where she was and just turn it into play. And it immediately lifted sort of this pall of fear, because they said their mom knew something wasn't right when one of the examples I'm remembering is she pointed outside and said, "There's monkeys out there." And clearly she didn't mean monkeys, but that was how it came out. And the husband looked outside and said, "Yeah, man, it's really early in the season for monkeys," which is a perfect yes and. And she burst out laughing and said, "Yeah, it is. What are we going to do?" He's like, "Guess we got to go get the license to start hunting the monkeys. Otherwise they're going to be everywhere." And so it just turned, and she ended up having fun and knowing it was a game and not feeling like, "I'm bad, I did something wrong because I said this weird thing." And it feels like the same mentality that you're talking about, of just meeting your kiddo where he is or she is and saying yes to their monkeys.
Well, there's just so many studies coming out now about the detriment of not having enough play in early childhood, and how it can affect your whole life. It affects your development. I mean, our most important lessons are learned before age 5, and it's through imaginative play is how we explore and learn about the world. And so you kind of have to meet a kid where he or she is in order to advance them any further. And we're so overscheduled, and we're so focused on concrete achievements that
piano
we forget,
lessons and volleyball and swim
yes,
team and yeah.
that we forget the joy of just sitting down with a book or you know, chasing your kid around the house and acting silly. It's you know, you can't schedule that kind of thing. You can't pay for it. You just, I mean, it just has to happen naturally.
And our schools are fighting more and more to integrate STEM programs and not STEAM programs. So as I'm noticing that schools are whittling away funds for the arts, and Nick, you teach in the school, so I'm sure you see it all the time. They're whittling away time for the arts. There was a story not so long ago about recess being whittled away down even further to 15 minutes, and that's not enough time. So my idea is that supplemental education like the Drama Club can be that outlet for imaginative play, for rehearsal and performance, for improv troupe. And not only can they come to us, we can go to them. So if there isn't time in the day, we can show up after school as soon as it ends and get something going. But the important thing is that it's there so that we maintain the important skills that we all know have come from our lives in the theater. And it just, to me, it makes you look at life in a much more exciting way if you've had some love of the arts and some training in the arts, whether it's a music program or a dance program or a theater program. If you've been touched by the arts, the world is a little more magical to you.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Hear, hear. And Megan, are you doing art work with the arts outside of the Drama Club as well? I know Matthew's got the Salt House Collective.
Not currently, no.
I'm sure it's plenty of work that you're doing
yes.
in there to keep you fed.
We keep talking about doing a play together, though.
Yes, we do.
Ooh. Well, it looks like you guys have a lot going on at the Drama Club beyond your classes. I was seeing something about story time.
Story time, yes. So we are officially, we live in the city of Maplewood. So the best way I can explain that to people who are not from St. Louis is Maplewood, to me, is a city inside of a city. Does that feel right? Everybody from St. Louis?
Yeah.
So we live in Maplewood. We're a member of the Maplewood Chamber, and what I wanted to do is, because we're a good neighbor, I wanted to partner with other Maplewood organizations to get the word out about the Drama Club, but to also just to have our hand in other forms of play and get everybody thinking, oh yeah, we got to do this. So on Wednesday mornings, I go over to the Book House, which is a local bookstore right there on Manchester, and they're a fantastic bookstore that's new and used. They've got a great kids section, and we pull some books out and we read stories to kids who show up. And so what's been happening is moms with strollers show up. We're like, I'm so glad to get out of the house and have something to do in the middle of the day. And kids from the school, the Giant Step School, which is a school specifically for kids with autism, kids from the school have been walking down and hanging out and being part of story time too. It's really fun. I really actually like it a lot. I sit in a rocking chair like a grumpy old man, and I got my cup of coffee, and I'm like, all right, kids, it's Sam's story. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to taking my turn.
I'm going. I want to see Matthew do that. Can you please also get a smoking jacket?
I need one, right? Right.
Just a suggestion. I know I'm not from St. Louis, so I'm not allowed to talk about it, but that was my suggestion. That's how we'd roll here in Ohio.
So we've been doing that. We're doing our first production, which we're adapting The Christmas Carol, and I'm using some of my postmodern techniques to make that happen, which is what I'm very excited about too. So I've really been taking the work of Barbara Dilley and infusing it into that traditional form of rehearsal and performance to slowly move the show forward without it ever feeling like we're really rehearsing. Mm-hmm. So I'll get a little something done here, and then we'll play a game, and then everything will happen inside of a red square, and we'll investigate that, and we'll talk about this through that. And before you know it, I mean, the whole thing just pieces itself together. we had a very formalized music rehearsal the other day, and I think I was sweating more than anyone else because it feels so formal to me. It makes me nervous.
You had to leave the room and go outside to de-stress for a second.
Little David after the dentist moment.
Yeah, it's so much out of what I'm used to because of like just training it and my shifting and training that when I go back into that very deep model that way, it's really like hard for me. But I can do it. I just am like have to go take a walk apparently.
And you guys are also working with the Improv Shop, I think I saw on your website as well.
We are. I'm super excited. So the Improv Shop here is, shall I say this? I will liken it to the St. Louis equivalent of the Second City, or I.O., or The Annoyance, or any one of those guys up there. But they're really doing some cool stuff, and I'm excited because their general manager, Andy Slowey, who is a Second City alum, is coming over to host our improv jam, first ever open to the public. We are hoping that we can get some other teams. We want our team to play, but I also want some other teams from other high school, middle schools to show up, and essentially we want them to show up so we can, well, beat them.
We're not competitive.
A little comedy sports action, okay.
A little bit, just coach. But yeah, so we're doing that on December 19th, and I couldn't be happier. I love how much the arts community here in St. Louis has embraced the Drama Club, and the doors just keep opening up. We're going to be starting a cabaret and performance class for kids and adults in the spring, as well as our devised ensemble that's happening, and the programs that we have just keep flourishing. We're going to be going from just a Saturday format to a Tuesday through Saturday format. So we really are growing in a way that I could have never imagined happening so fast, and I couldn't be more thrilled about it because it just says to me that the service that the Drama Club is providing is really valuable to parents and kids and families in the area, and that the art community, the way they've embraced us, also are absolutely on board with bringing our kids and the next generations into the magic of culture and art.
That's all.
Yeah.
Small goals.
I congratulate you on that, and it is to have it grow that quickly is a great testament to both of your work. Because as a person who has been in the St. Louis art scene before, it can be a challenge, and but it also offers a lot of potential and magic and commitment from the audiences, because St. Louis is a very arts-friendly town. It's just taking that time to connect with it, and it's really great that you're able to make all those things happen. So my hat's off to you.
Thanks.
And we wish you all the best with that.
Yeah, thank you. And if you've got an improv team, Nick, come on down so we can beat you.
The gauntlet has been thrown,
It has been
y'all.
thrown. It's out there. I did it.
We're going to yes and our faces off. I love it. I just dropped out. Sorry, I was having a little connectivity difficulty.
So, are there things, as you've started in St. Louis, and one of the things we always like to ask our guests is, what technology have you used or planning to use to connect with the arts, or share or use while you're working with your students?
I would say technology with our students, probably the best technology we use with our students is the library. Yay! Professionally, I've actually been working with this program called Isadora, which is a dance-based program named after Isadora Duncan. And really what it does is it maps the body, and through light and projection, it'll map the body, and it can map patterns and images and things of that nature. So I've been developing a piece of work recently with that. I think Danielle might be
checking that out. Yeah, I'm checking that out right now. That looks so cool.
It's amazing. It's amazing what it can do. And I've seen it played with in a couple of different ways, and I'm just fascinated by it. So I spend a lot of time in my studio here at home just exploring it. And as I said, I'm trying to craft a new piece using that kind of technology with it.
It looks very pretty. Very pretty. And I know that you're not a technological king, so it must be a very nice user interface, yeah?
It's pretty, yeah. I mean, it's got some complicated moments to it, but it is relatively user-friendly. And if you are, I guess what I'm learning is, because I'm making an original piece of work out of it, I'm wanting to see how to explore it in ways that it's never been used before. But if you're doing a more traditional piece where you need something, it's actually a pretty affordable purchase and a pretty affordable setup that's going to let you use again and again and again, and so in just a myriad of ways, that it seems like a pretty awesome investment for a small company or a classroom. No, I see our website right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably you guys like this little bit of technology too.
I like that technology a lot. Please mind the typos.
Yeah, you get a special prize if you show up.
That's right. $1 off every typo you find.
Look at that handsome guy. Look at him. Look at him.
Look at that dude. Who is that guy? Who is that guy?
Oh my
so
gosh!
those are some pictures.
Apparently, your students just have to be adorable. That must be a requirement.
I mean, we really do. We screen pretty appropriately. Those are pictures from our opening day, which was super exciting. Just to go back to the idea of the St. Louis arts community, on opening day, we had so many people come through that were professional artists or technicians to come by and say hello and welcome. We had a lot of the neighborhood stop in, and it just was this beautiful moment of time where this question that was sitting out there in my head, and I don't know about yours, Megan, but it was definitely in my head of, is this going to work? Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I really did, at the end of that day, I walked away and I felt like this is happening.
Well, you even had the key to the city.
Yeah. Right here.
I think you all found something that was really unique and not being served in St. Louis, because as one who's taken classes way back when in the 80s at different places in the art scene, devise works and improv and just the exploration of the arts through play, I don't think that's really being serviced. There's a lot of focus on musical theater in St. Louis.
That's right.
A little bit with film work on that type of class level. And I think it's great that you all have met that need, because I think your class will serve them in all facets of their life, whether they stay in the arts or not.
Totally. And thanks for saying that. And the other thing to know about it is I'm very excited about the idea of partnering with all the other organizations who are doing things like musical theater tracks, because that's not necessarily something we do right now. It's not to say that we wouldn't drop something in there here or there, but it's not our main focus. Meanwhile, the skills that they're learning at our school can translate into those programs, and I'm happy to have kids be able to go back and forth.
And Lord knows, Matthew, you have plenty of experience with ye olde musical theater.
Well, I think that
this man's got pipes.
1, 2, or 20 of them.
speaking again, I think we realized this after we got off the air last time we had on that I saw Matthew in a show in a musical theater show at his high school, which is the famous St. Louis question. If you live in St. Louis, your question, so we can judge you, is what high school did you go to? And I won't leave that answer for those St. Louisans listening.
Right, but it's funny because
I went to see my cousin in a show and saw Matthew and Megan. Were you in MAME also?
I was, yes.
were you in it, Megan?
Yes, I was in the chorus.
I couldn't remember that. I thought maybe you might have been backstage, but no, you were there.
I was there.
All right.
For Matthew, this scene doesn't exist if he's not in it, so.
Pretty
exactly.
That was such a long time ago. You know, so I'm still friends with the woman who played the lead in that show. And just to show you, like, where somebody can go, listen to this beautiful little story. She and her husband, their daughter has a gorgeous voice and is deeply, deeply invested in musical theater. And they quit their lives. They moved to New York City to a tiny little apartment in Hell's Kitchen so that their daughter could go to LaGuardia High School, the original Fame School, and that they could pursue her Broadway career.
Wow.
I mean, isn't that amazing?
And it's too many small circles here.
Right.
Yeah.
A friend of mine from high school was a friend of the person who played MAME, so it's too funny.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well.
I knew nobody. I was nowhere near you. I just want to say that. I was not in this circle of influence.
But you are now. Now you have.
I am now. I am the bringer of you people together. I will say that.
True.
I am the connective tissue here.
The conduit.
That's right. That's right. It all comes through me.
Yeah.
You and Megan, how can people find out about the Drama Club St. Louis and connect with both of you?
You can go to www.thedramaclubstl.com. That's our website. And you can call us at 314-669-5660. I had to think about the phone number. And I think, Megan, what other ways can they contact us?
Well, you can check out our spread in the Ladue News this week. We have a 3-page spread in a local paper. And I think all of our contact information should be available there as well.
Yep. All of our contact information is available there. And you can, come down to the Cherokee neighborhood and probably chase me down on the street one day. Mm-hmm. That's fine too.
He's never home.
I'm never home. You can go to Megan's house. She's home a lot. Go over to North County and bound.
Just yell Megan.
Yeah, right.
I'll come running.
Yeah, but come by and check us out. If you're curious about it and you're like, I got a kid, come by, spend a day with us, and I guarantee if you spend a day, you'll spend a month, and a month will turn into an extended period of time.
Well, thank you again for joining us. Danielle, how can people find you on the interwebs?
You can go to edunerdhq.org to see my various musings on blogs and other such media, or you can tweet me at Ms. Filas, MSFILAS. How about you, Senor Cusumano? How can they find you?
You can find me on the Twitter at edtech4theater, or edtech4theater, or my blog edtech4theater.com, and that's a good way of finding me out there. And I want to thank all our listeners for joining us this week. And be sure to check us out. And if you're in St. Louis, give us a ring. This is a St. Louis heavy show. It's just fun to talk about our hometown. So thanks again, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.